Tänään studiossa vanhenemisen hidastamisen maailmanmestari. Hän on virolainen biohakkeri Siim Land, joka on onnistunut pudottamaan biologista ikäänsä merkittävästi. Siim Land on voittanut Rejuvenation Olympics -kilpailut. Se on tieteellisiin mittauksiin perustuva kisa, jossa arvioidaan ihmisen biologista ikää ja sitä, että kuinka hitaasti ihminen vanhenee. Siim Landin keho siis ikääntyy ennätyksellisen hitaasti. Nyt hän paljastaa, miten se on mahdollista ja mitä me kaikki voidaan oppia hänen metodeistaan. Eli miten myös sinä voit elää parempaa ja laadukkaampaa elämää. Mutta muista tsekata lääkäriltäsi, jos olet tekemässä isoja elämäntapamuutoksia. Hello, Siim.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Welcome here. I'm happy I got you here. We met in Hololive Summit in Estonia, where you live. You are a biohacker and longevity enthusiast. How did you get into this longevity and biohacking world?
Yeah, I was into fitness and strength training in the end of high school. And from there, I started to research about nutrition, just different workout methods, etc., supplements, etc. And as time went on, I just more got interested in the health side of things. I got more interested in preventive health because my grandfather died to colorectal cancer when he was 36, so a long time before I was born. I just didn't want to, get sick prematurely or die at a young age either. So that made me very, careful or cautious with preventive health and start to focus more on this rather than just fitness and exercise. So over time, I shifted more towards health topics and longevity topics. As a result of that, I started my YouTube channel almost 10 years ago, or started making content online almost 10 years ago. And the YouTube channel grew from whatever passions I had at the time, such as exercise, nutrition, supplements. And now with the last 4 or 5 years, I've been very specifically focused on longevity. And I got a degree in anthropology in my early 20s, and this obviously gave me some scientific training, but also as an anthropologist, I was interested in the longevity space because it's very interesting to think about what would human society and the human species look like in the future if we do manage to, let's say, extend our lifespans by another 100 years or even more than that. So it's just a very interesting ethical and philosophical anthropological question. As an anthropologist, I'm interested in it as a scientific question as well.
Do you think it's possible we could expand our lifespan more 100 or something years? Now I think the oldest person has been 120.
So the interesting thing about this is that over the last century, the average life expectancy has increased exponentially. It's almost more than doubled in Western countries over this time. But the maximum lifespan hasn't increased that much. So it means that we've reached some sort of a ceiling currently that it's around 120. And most people will just be able to live longer on average. So most people will live to their 80s and 90s and maybe 100s, but we haven't broke the ceiling of getting to 150 or 200 years of age yet. Now it's obviously too early to tell if there is a ceiling. Maybe in the next 50 years we will break it, and some people do think that within this century, or scientists think that within this century we will reach the age of 130, someone will reach it. But there's also some people who think that within the next 10 years, we will reach what's called this longevity escape velocity, which means that after this threshold, the advancements in science and medicine will outpace death, so that every year that goes by, our life expectancy increases by equally as much or double that amount. So just we're being kept alive with new medicines or new scientific breakthroughs. And it's this kind of a hockey stick scenario that after, some people say it's 2035, other people say 2045. Obviously it's a very theoretical idea. There's no proof that it is possible yet, and we're not, anywhere close to that. So we're definitely not even aware of what that breakthrough might be in medicine that would enable us to live to hundreds of years of age. But theoretically, it's possible, right? Theoretically, we can, modulate our speed of aging and have some sort of rejuvenation technologies that replace our organs or halt the speed of aging completely with some medicines. But practically speaking, there's nothing that would indicate that we're anywhere close to that. But it is true that people will live on average to 90s and 100s within this century.
And biohackers often speak about lifespan and health span, and you are actually talking about health span mostly. What does it mean?
Yeah, health span essentially defines your healthy years free from some comorbidities and chronic diseases. Mm-hmm. And health span usually refers to some more serious medical condition. It's not like migraines or some other minor health concerns. It's more about like at the tail end of your life, you will have things like, heart failure or kidney disease or hypertension or those kind of things. So it describes how long are you able to stay healthy without these conditions. And if you are able to stay healthier for longer, then it's reasonable to say that you will also live longer because healthier people tend to live longer. But health span doesn't necessarily reflect maximum lifespan.
Yeah, and you are one of my favorite biohackers because I've never noticed that you make mistakes. You base everything on science and analysis and data. So you must read a lot of studies. Scientific, like meta-analysis and things like that.
Yeah, I read papers every day, and my latest book, The Longevity Leap, it has over 8,000 references, and it's very in-depth and thorough. Obviously, I make mistakes, right? I might not interpret the data 100% accurately all the time, but I try to obviously maintain integrity and accuracy with these things. And if I ever make a mistake, then I tend to fix it or correct it.
Yeah, and because there's so many like health influencers in the health world and in social media who claim things that are basically not true.
Right.
Even in biohacking world, there are people like that.
I mean, especially in the biohacking world, I think most online biohacking space is full of misinformation, or at least maybe maybe not be deliberate, right? They're probably not deliberately lying, but they tend to not just understand it that well.
So how do you know what to believe? We have meta-analysis, we have scientific facts, and then we have really false claims and things that we know that are not true. But then there's this gray area between. So how do you navigate there?
Yeah, well, one good rule of thumb is to imagine or try to adopt the hierarchy of evidence. So hierarchy of evidence is just a pyramid, or what kind of evidence is a better quality and lower quality in science. At the bottom of the pyramid, there's opinions, even expert opinions. If someone has a PhD, then their opinion is more relevant than someone who doesn't. But still, at the bottom of the pyramid, there is opinions and just some kind of claims without any proof. So let's say, and it's also someone might say, okay, my grandma or grandfather smoked, they lived until 100, therefore smoking isn't bad for you, or it's healthy for you, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a claim with no evidence, and if you actually look at the evidence, then it's not true. So they did a study in 2004 in the centenarians in Rome, Italy. They found 156 centenarians in Rome at that time, and something like 87% of them were never smokers. 11% were previous smokers, and only 1.5% were current smokers.
Yeah.
So it's cherry picking a very small amount of data, and it's you'll always find exceptions to the rule. You'll always find the smoking grandfather who lives to 100, but for every smoking grandfather, there's millions of smokers who die before they reach 100. So at the bottom is the opinion of someone. Then comes a case studies. So these are anecdotal individual case studies, so that one person took a supplement, they got liver failure. That's a case study. That's not indicative of the actual trend that it would always be the case that everyone would get it. And the case study is also like a smoker grandfather who reached the age of 100. It's like individual example. It's not like a scientific study. It hasn't been controlled for anything. So it's just anecdotal evidence. Then you have these observational studies. These are observational studies on millions of people, usually at least like hundreds of thousands of people. They look at, okay, does this kind of behavior correlate with these health outcomes or these health risks? Smoking, there's a very strong correlation between smoking and lung cancer. It's something like if you smoke, then you have like a 10,000% higher risk of developing lung cancer.
10,000% higher risk.
Yeah. Because it's such a huge number, it's such a huge, strong correlation, you can expect that there is some, let's say, truth to it, because it's such a strong, and you can also find it replicated in multiple studies. So one single study obviously never proves anything. You need to replicate that study in different populations, in different areas of the world, in different settings. And if it consistently is shown to give that same effect, then you can be pretty sure, like the degree of certainty that it is true increases.
Yeah.
With one study, the degree of certainty is quite low, but if you have hundreds of studies showing that same effect, then you can be pretty sure that, okay, we can't causally prove it. Like it's never been causally proven that smoking would increase the risk of lung cancer in humans through these randomized control trials, because it's unethical to do that kind of a study. But because there's such a huge amount of observational data and mechanistic data, you can be quite certain of that. I skipped a step. So underneath the observational studies is the mechanistic studies as well. So you do like a cell study, you in the kind of this petri dish or something like that, you look at different mechanisms. Mechanisms are very interesting, but the mechanisms don't prove anything either that it would actually work in humans. Like you can do mechanistic studies in mice and other animals. They don't always translate over to humans. So if someone references mice studies, then it's not like completely disregarded, but it's not 100% relevant to humans either. It's not all mice have obviously different metabolisms. They're actually nocturnal creatures, so they're completely flipped upside down with their metabolism than humans. So it's still a quite low degree of certainty when it comes to evidence. After the observational studies come these randomized control trials. So there you have actually two groups of people or multiple groups of people. Then you have like a placebo group and then the intervention group. So you're trying to control for all the variables. You make sure that everyone eats the same amount of food or the same type of foods. You make sure everyone follows the same lifestyle, so that you can see, okay, is it specifically this thing, this specific supplement or drug that is giving the effects? So you can be more certain of the outcomes that way. So the randomized control trials are considered the gold standard of clinical evidence, and they're quite high certainty of evidence. And after that, you have these meta-analyses of randomized control trials. So meta-analyses are collections of multiple studies of the same type. So you look at all the studies done on this topic, you do a meta-analysis on that, you see, do all of these same studies find the same effect or similar effect, or is there just randomness? Like some studies do, some studies don't, then it's kind of random, then it might not be that consistent. Yeah. But if all the studies, all these clinical trials show that same effect or similar effect, you can see that the trend is there, and then you can calculate the effect size of how big of an effect it is. And on top of that are actually what's considered like the top of the hierarchy of evidence is these medical guidelines and things like that. And these medical guidelines are often constructed based upon the meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials, the epidemiological studies, and also expert opinions of these scientists and doctors. I personally wouldn't put the medical guidelines at the top because they're very slow to change. It takes decades to change them more often than not. I would much rather look at the meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials myself. I would draw conclusions based on that.
That's what you are looking at.
Yeah.
Tell me about Rejuvenation Olympics. You've taken part a few years, and you have been, last year you were number 1. So what does it mean? Now you are currently number 4. In Rejuvenation Olympics. What is it and what does it mean?
Yeah, so the Rejuvenation Olympics is some competition that Brian Johnson created based upon a test.
With the millionaire biohacker, Netflix made a documentary about who spends millions on biohacking.
Yeah, so he made this website that ranks people's scores on this test called the Dunedin Pace test that goes from 0 to 1 or above.
Yeah.
And the lower the score, the slower your quote-unquote speed of aging.
And yours was 0.62.
0.62. So that would mean that every year that goes by, I aged 62% of it. Now, the scientific validity or accuracy of this test is, I would say, not very good right now.
Okay.
I think it measures something, but it's not measuring your speed of aging, and it's not measuring your biological age or anything like that. So it's based on a collection of studies done in New Zealand. So these Dunedin studies, and they just correlated these test results with, let's say, chronological age of people and their health outcomes. So people who had a slower score tended to do better, etc., and people who had a higher score tended to do worse. But it's still a correlation of a correlation, right? So it's not actually looking at your biological age or your speed of aging. Theoretically, there is what's called your biological age. You could theoretically measure it. We just don't know how to measure it. And most of the biological age tests out there right now, they're not actually looking at your biological age. They're looking at a correlation of something that is correlated with chronological age. And I personally think it's inflammation or something related to that. So inflammation obviously contributes a lot to biological aging and increased mortality. And the problem with these tests are that they're very sensitive to inflammation. What they see is that if you're sick or if you had, cold or some virus, then your scores would increase. So you're quote unquote older without doing anything else with your lifestyle.
When you had COVID.
Yeah. So like last year I did. When I did the tests, I had COVID in the middle of that, and my score went up a little bit. So it's just very sensitive to these acute inflammatory states, and it's not representative of your biological age, in my opinion.
The point is you beat Brian Johnson in that Olympics at 1 year. Brian Johnson, who is the father of this Olympics, and he spends huge amounts of money, money on longevity and how not to die, basically.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't. So I'm not going to do the test again, probably, because it's quite expensive as well. It's like $400 per test.
Okay.
And you need to do multiple tests. So it's just not worth it. The information you're getting is not worth it, in my opinion. It's more like a marketing scheme. Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about biohacking. What does it mean? Tell me, what is biohacker, and how does it differ from like normal health enthusiasts?
Yeah, well, I think biohacking refers to being very intentional about it. So you're deliberate at trying to achieve certain results. You're trying to improve some blood markers or improve your VO2 max or bone density or whatever else. Like you're measuring things, quantifying things, and then trying to improve and optimize the results. Now, I don't think there's anything special about biohacking or something. I think most people, I don't really think I'm a biohacker, right? I'm just health enthusiast, I guess, and interested in longevity. So maybe like a citizen scientist or something else like that. So I'm.
But you do, like biohackers take a lot of blood tests, and they change their, for instance, for their supplement protocols according to, and that's what you do. You do blood tests twice a year.
Yeah, I do. At least twice a year, blood tests, and I track certain things that I think are valuable and try to optimize them. And obviously the most important thing is maintaining. So right now I already have excellent blood markers, so I don't have anything specific that I need to like improve upon. So my goal is to maintain it, and by keeping optimal blood markers and other biomarkers for longer, you're effectively increasing your health span. So like with age, the older you get, there is a decline in this health status. So there's natural processes of aging that make your health worse by default. But by tracking these things and moving your needle in different directions, you can maintain that better blood marker status for longer, and by doing that, you're also extending your health span. So obviously, right now it's I'm not talking about years, even I'm talking about decades. I need to maintain this good blood markers for decades.
Yeah.
To have a significant effect on my actual longevity.
And your biomarkers are like you're in top 1% of many of the blood markers, biomarkers.
Right. So if you look at the population data from these observational studies, there's a whole. You can look at pretty much every blood marker, and you can see what ranges of these blood markers are associated with the highest mortality risk and what are associated with the lowest mortality risk. And based on those studies, I'm not top 1% with all the markers in terms of lowest mortality risk. Some of them are maybe top 5%. But like all my blood markers and other biomarkers are pretty much in the lowest mortality risk category. So I have, based on these studies, obviously, I have a very good health and very low risk of dying to anything, and low risk of getting chronic diseases as well. Obviously, I could get hit by a bus. I could get some random cancer or something else like that from some environmental exposure. But with all things, other things being equal, then it's like top 1% in terms of mortality risk.
Some biohackers use technology and very advanced technology. But do you do that? What kind of things you use?
I don't have a ton of, let's say, gadgets or things I track. I track my blood work and some biomarkers. I measure my sleep every once in a while. I don't check it every day, but it's something I do pay attention to. I like to look at things like my exercise performance and the body composition. Those are, very valuable. I think the problem with tracking is that if you just track for the sake of tracking and you're not actually improving things, then it's useless.
Yeah.
So the goal of tracking would be to get information of what you need to improve and then improve it. And you don't necessarily need to track anything. Like you could never do blood tests. You just follow a healthy lifestyle and exercise. You could intuitively feel, okay, you're generally healthy. Now, of course, there might be still some things that are not optimal. Like you could be very healthy and fit, but still have high cholesterol or high liver enzymes or poor kidney function. It's very common in even fit athletes to have those things. So it is still valuable to track, but theoretically, if you just stay lean, you exercise regularly, you eat a good diet, you sleep enough, then most of those blood markers will be in pretty good condition.
Yeah.
And I track so that I could tweak them and get them more to the most optimal range.
Yeah. You do more, I think you do more scientifically proven things that are quite inexpensive. You don't use gadgets or things so much. But
right.
Longevity is something you are very, very interested in. Can everybody, can all of us affect our lifespan or health span with our lifestyle choices? Because obviously genes come into account
right.
as well.
Yeah, genes do play a role. And if you look at the extreme of longevity, so people who reach the age of 110 and 120, then there is a huge genetic component to that. So to reach the age of 120, you need to also have good genes in addition to a good lifestyle. But for the general population, people who have normal genes or even bad genes, then lifestyle becomes even more important. So you can't obviously control your genes, but you can control your lifestyle quite a lot. You can do things that reduce your mortality and make up for bad genes as well. So when it comes to longevity, then what matters is not dying, right? So you want to reduce your risk of dying. And the reason people die in the modern world are heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, kidney disease, diabetes. Of course, there's these respiratory conditions, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and diarrheal diseases, etc. But they're more in other parts of the world. In the developed countries, it's heart disease by far the biggest killer. Then it's Alzheimer's, cancer, diabetes, kidney disease, and lung disease, respiratory conditions. So to live longer, you want to postpone these diseases for as long as possible to get them later in life. With age, the older you get, the higher the risk of these diseases is because of aging, but you can still reduce the risk with proper lifestyle and quote-unquote slowing down your speed of biological aging. So things like maintaining good body weight, exercise, sleep enough, eat a well-balanced diet, maintain good relationships, manage stress. Those things are the pillars, the cornerstones of a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, and studies indicate that you can substantially mitigate your genetic risks, 60% even, like with your lifestyle choices. So you can do a lot. I was asking, my friend asked a question, what are your 5 easiest or favorite longevity hacks? And we can talk about this like in depth soon, but just shortly, 5 easiest or favorite longevity hacks.
Yeah, so I mentioned already the fundamentals: exercise, diet, sleep, stress, and relationships. I'm not gonna mention those as hacks. I don't think they're necessarily hacks, but I would say, how do you maintain better exercise, or how do you keep your body moving better throughout the day? So for that, there's things called exercise snacks. So they involve 1 minute, very intense, short exercise breaks. So 1 minute you do jumping jacks or squats or run up the stairs, something else like that. And the research shows that doing several of these exercise snacks throughout the day is associated with much lower heart disease mortality, and it also increases VO2 max. So you can
lunches when you brush your teeth, for instance, in the morning, and you do lunches at the same time, for instance.
Yeah, for example, yeah, but you want to get your heart rate quite high, so you want to get your heart rate quite pounding.
Aerobic things.
Yeah. So that's one. The second thing is what's called soleus push-ups. So we sit a lot, and sitting isn't a healthy thing for long term. And these soleus push-ups are like seated calf raises. So there was a study that showed that doing these improved insulin sensitivity and glucose response by up to 60% compared to not doing it and just sitting still. So the soleus muscle is a very important muscle underneath the calves that regulates blood flow back to the heart. So if we're just standing or sitting, then gravity pulls the blood down and it tends to pull up in the legs. So doing the soleus push-ups activates those muscles and helps to pump the blood back up, and also maintains insulin sensitivity. So we can't always walk if we're working on a computer or something, but we can do the soleus push-ups. So it's something like 60 to 100 reps per minute, so like 1 per second pretty much. So that's a good utilization of that. Third one would be, I like intermittent fasting. So I think skipping or having less frequent meals, or at least cutting out on some snacks, is a good way to help to reach a calorie deficit and manage body weight. So what matters for weight loss is calories in and calories out. But most people obviously are not going to count their calories, and it's hard to do. But if you, let's say, have only 2 meals or have less snacks, you automatically cut out several hundred calories, even like 1,000 calories by doing that.
Yeah.
And at least in these studies, these people who do intermittent fasting, they tend to lose weight without counting calories because they automatically eat less.
Do you do 16-8 so that you eat within 8-hour time frame, or what kind of intermittent fasting regime you do? I
do. So I have around 10 a.m. I have like a protein drink or shake, or like a protein snack. So that's going to give me something like 30 grams of protein and a few hundred calories. Then I work out in the afternoon, and in the evening I have my dinner. I have an early dinner, so like 4 p.m. And
it's 18 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably something like that. So I don't have 2 meals, but I have maybe 1.5 meals or 2 meals at most. And I have an early dinner. So I stop eating something like 4 or 5 hours before bed.
Okay. So yeah, it's quite a long intermittent fasting. And you have 2 more hacks.
Yeah. I think weighted vest walking is also quite interesting. So walking with a weighted vest.
You just tried that with your wife. Yeah.
With a weighted vest or with a backpack, heavy backpack, so you just burn more calories while walking, and you can burn up to 40% more calories if you have a vest that weighs 66% of your body weight. Now it's quite heavy, but burning 40% more calories while walking for the same distance is quite significant. Now it's not like necessary for people to do. You can just walk regularly, but it's also good cardio. It's going to increase your heart rate a little bit more. So you will be in a more aerobic state, so better cardiovascular benefits as well.
Okay. And one more.
And one more, maybe getting a dog or like a pet, because
beneficial in many ways.
Right. First of all, people who have dogs, they walk more and they're more physically active, but there's also like mental health benefits. I guess they have stress relieving effects.
Yeah.
So that's pet ownership is associated with longevity as well. At least dog ownership, and it's good for physical and mental health.
Yeah, and you get some oxytocin from that.
Right.
Hey, let's talk about your protocol. That is your diet and your exercise routine, and for instance, what supplements you take, and that's the protocol when we speak about that. Let's start about food. You were talking about intermittent fasting here, but you follow Mediterranean diet. Why that?
Well, I think the Mediterranean diet is the most evidence-based diet. It has the most clinical evidence from randomized controlled trials that it has health benefits. Now, it doesn't mean that it's the only one or it's the best one. I just find it quite easy to follow, and by following it, I've also seen from my own blood work that it improves.
So what is your, like you said, you eat first, you have a shake at 10 o'clock and then at 4 o'clock you have this dinner. So what is your typical dinner? What do you eat?
Yeah, my dinner is usually maybe 300 grams of vegetables with cruciferous, usually some carrots maybe as well. Then I have maybe 100, 200 grams of some fish with maybe 100, 200 grams of beans, black beans, with 1 tablespoon of olive oil. Sometimes I'll have like a blue cheese or this bright cheese.
Okay. Why do you eat cheese?
Well, I think it's a good source of vitamin K2.
Okay.
And other nutrients like spermidine and ergothioneine, which have been seen to have some like health benefits.
Okay, so there's actual health benefits in cheese. That's good to know, because
Right.
I thought it's just like bad for you.
Well, I mean, everything is also dependent of the calorie intake. So the worst thing is excess calorie consumption. If you eat quote unquote a healthy diet, whatever that you might think it is, if you're overweight and you eat too many calories, then it's still worse for you than, let's say, an unhealthy diet that's in a calorie deficit.
Yeah. You don't have to think about your weight, because your weight is good. Also, you eat the morning shake. So what do you put in it?
I have a whey protein powder with frozen berries and some psyllium husk. So it
is it water or almond milk or what's
just water? Yeah,
just water.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean the protein powder is flavored, so it's like some chocolate flavor or something like that. With frozen berries, I usually put either strawberries or pomegranate seeds, so it makes it more like ice cream texture or smoothie texture. And the psyllium husk also makes it more smoothie texture.
Yeah. And you eat meat, and this is like Brian Johnson, for instance, he doesn't eat meat at all. He only eats vegetarian diet, but you decided to eat meat, red meat also.
Well, I didn't eat like a lot of it. I, let's say, eat it a few times a week. So I don't think it's it's not a health concern that much. So the biggest risk from a red meat is the saturated fat. So if you eat lean red meats, then you can pretty much avoid all the potential health risks.
Do you eat only grass-fed red meats?
I don't think so.
It's difficult to find, at least in Finland.
Yeah, I think I eat regular.
Yeah.
Often. Yeah. So the issue with grass-fed and grain-fed is also the fat content.
Yeah.
So if you eat lean red meat, then it's not a concern either. I don't. So for my own blood work, I've just seen that reducing the red meat is better, but I still have it every once in a while, mostly for getting a good source of iron and other minerals from there.
Yeah. Do you get enough, if you eat like only 1.5 times a day, do you get enough vitamins and minerals? It's almost like snake diet. Snake diet is when you eat only one meal a day.
I'm pretty sure I do, yeah, because your body can absorb pretty much all the things that you eat, even if it's once a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mainstream advice is to eat like 5 to 6 times a day. What do you think about that? Like snack constantly.
Right. Well, I mean, depends a lot on the person. Some people don't do well with intermittent fasting. They tend to overeat afterwards or something like that. But I guess there's no physiological requirement to be eating throughout the day. Your body doesn't need to do that. You can go for many days without eating. And personally, I just find it more kind of easier to follow. I don't have to think about eating throughout the day. I just have it in the evening after I've exercised and after I've worked, so that it's just a good time to like relax.
Yeah. Microbiome is also very important, and many biohackers think about the microbiome a lot because it's almost as important as your like teeth and health in your mouth. What do you do to your gut health? Do you think about it?
I don't specifically think about my gut health, except maybe eating quite a lot of fiber. So I think, fiber over the last few years has gotten like some sort of a bad reputation. These anti-nutrients, lectins, and all these other things that fiber is actually bad for you. Some people say, well, I think it's actually the opposite. Like people eat too little fiber, and fiber is underrated, in my opinion. So I think people should be eating actually more fiber. So something like 40, 50 grams at least for more optimal health, because it's hard to study what happens if you eat, let's say, 80 grams of fiber, because you wouldn't find enough people who actually eat that much fiber. But I would predict that people who would eat 60 grams of fiber, they would probably have better health than people who eat 10 grams or even 30 grams of fiber. Now, of course, there are some individual differences. Some people have gut problems, some autoimmune conditions that they can't digest lectins and things like that. Some people get kidney stones from leafy greens or something like that. But I don't have those problems, partly because I actually eat those foods. So there's the risk that if you avoid, quote unquote, anti-nutrients, that you actually develop a sensitivity to them. So the same way, if you avoid all the gluten, right, and then you accidentally eat it, then you're going to get a severe reaction because your body isn't used to digesting the gluten. Whereas if you eat the gluten every once in a while, the same way like with children as well, you don't want to grow a child gluten-free, right, because they won't actually develop a gluten allergy through that. You want to microdose, quote unquote, the gluten to them so that they actually develop the immune system. And as an adult as well, you just want to expose yourself to certain nutrients if you can tolerate them. Like if you don't have an actual autoimmune condition, then you shouldn't probably like deliberately avoid these different nutrients all the time.
Yeah, but seed oils you avoid, I understood.
Well, I don't cook with them, right? Anything like that. I don't use seed oils in my own food. I guess seed oils matter as well in the context of the calories and where you're getting them from. Most of the processed food just has a lot of seed oils, so it's hard to distinguish, is it the seed oils or is it all the burger and fries that is causing the problem, right? Because the clinical trials on seed oils would indicate that they're not harmful. So if you, let's say, use canola oil in your cooking, then based on the clinical trials, then it wouldn't be harmful to your health.
Whereas the problem is like French fries and
yeah, the
when you go eat out to the burger places or wherever, they use a lot of seed oils.
Yeah, the problem is also the reheating of these oils. So like in the French fries, they're reheating the oils constantly, like dozens of times, probably at super high temperatures. In this scenario, these seed oils do oxidize and they might be harmful. So if you're eating French fries in McDonald's, then you're getting very potentially oxidized seed oils. But if you just cook with the canola oil, then you're not reheating it, right? And you're not using insane temperatures, so it's not actually oxidizing either.
Okay.
So I don't eat seed oils, right, deliberately. But if I, go eat in a restaurant, I order some food, it might have some seed oils. I'm not gonna worry about it.
Yeah, because some people even track right. Some biohackers track restaurants where they use seed oils and don't go there, and they have maps.
Yeah, I think it's focusing on the wrong things.
Yeah.
It's someone might be focusing on seed oils, but if they're not exercising and they're overweight, then they're focusing on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Like the first you focus on losing the weight and exercising before hyper-focusing on the seed oils.
Yes. How about glucose? Do you use have you used glucose monitors, or do you check your glucose levels?
I have used the CGMs in the past. And I find them, they're quite interesting. They give you some insights into your blood sugar response. But I guess the risk of that could be that you think if your blood sugar goes up that it's inherently bad or that you need to keep it flat all the time. Well, that's not true. The truth is that your blood sugar will go up whenever you eat something, unless it's pure fat or something like that. Then your blood sugar naturally will go up. That's actually a natural response. The problem is if it stays elevated for many hours. So that's a state of diabetes, that your blood sugar goes up, your body isn't able to produce insulin or shuttle the glucose into the cells, so your blood sugar stays elevated for many hours. So the healthy thing is goes up, your body produces insulin, and it goes down because the insulin shuttles the glucose into the cells. So that's a sign of good insulin sensitivity. So the blood sugar going up isn't a bad sign.
So is it true or false when they say that you should start your day by eating savory breakfast? Like if you have, for instance, porridge that makes your blood sugar go up. Is it false information? I've been wondering that. That's why I'm asking.
Well, I think it's probably a better idea to not have huge spikes at least several times throughout the day. If you eat 6 times a day and they're all up and down, then maybe that's not the healthiest thing. But if it goes up, let's say you have breakfast and lunch that have carbohydrates, it goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down, and your dinner is, let's say, more low carb. It doesn't go up that much. I don't think that's a health concern, right? So again, the problem is if it stays elevated and it doesn't come down. So that's a sign of insulin resistance.
Yeah.
If it goes up, the degree it goes up is dependent of the amount of carbohydrates you ate and the glycemic load and possibly your insulin sensitivity. If it goes up and it comes down fast, then that's a good sign and a healthy sign. So I wouldn't really worry about the spikes, quote unquote, and you don't really need about keeping a flat line with your blood sugar. You need to worry about if it doesn't come down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And many doctors say that when you're a healthy person, you don't have to think about that. That's only for diabetics. But
yeah, but I think, the problem there is that how do you know that if you actually are insulin sensitive?
Pre-diabetic.
If you don't use the CGM, the other option is to go to the doctor and do the oral glucose tolerance test, where you drink this 75 grams of sugar and they measure your blood sugar over the next 2 hours and see how fast it comes down. So that's the other option to actually know if you have good insulin sensitivity or not. And I think it's useful information for people to use because there's no other way to really test it in your everyday setting. You want to test it obviously more often than once at the doctor. You want to see, okay, is it for specific foods that it happens? Is it specific time of the day? Because there's a lot of variability there. Some people might get a spike in the morning, but they don't get it in the evening, or vice versa. Some people might get a spike with a banana and others don't. So it depends a lot on the situation. So using it for 2 weeks, I think, would be very educational. and useful. The same way tracking your calories is very useful for a few weeks. You weigh all the food, you look at the macros, you use a chronometer or some app to calculate it, and you see, okay, how many calories am I actually eating? So people are very bad at estimating their calorie intake, and they're very generous with their estimations. They might think, okay, I'm eating 1,000 calories a day and I'm not losing weight. But if they were to actually calculate all those things, they would see, okay, I'm actually eating 2,500 calories. So it's, knowledge is power in that sense. If you actually see and measure things, you will see what is the truth, and you can, be more educated about it.
And keto and low carb diets you don't do?
Well, I did them in the past, 7-8 years ago. And, the ketogenic diet has therapeutic value, so it's investigated for type 2 diabetes, obesity, epilepsy, some irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, etc. So it has a real therapeutic value, and it can be used as a therapeutic tool for treating certain medical conditions. Now, do you need to follow it as an otherwise healthy person? Probably not, unless you like it, right? There's no inherent health benefits for otherwise healthy people that they need to follow it. And, one fear people have is with the glucose, that I need to eat low carb so that I wouldn't spike my sugar or something like that. But, most healthy people don't need to worry about it. It's mostly for, diabetes, epilepsy, and IBS or IBD.
Yeah, let's talk about exercise. You have said that exercise is the most powerful tool for longevity.
Well, it's the most powerful tool we have right now, because there's no other pill or supplement that is equally as good and powerful as exercise. So, it just goes to show that we're not very close to figuring out extending lifespan at all. Like, if the only thing that comes close in my mouse studies is or exceeds exercise actually is a calorie restriction. That restricting the calories of mice extended their lifespan by 65%, and that was done like 40 years ago. That experiment. So. In humans, it's hard to say if calorie restriction will extend lifespan because it's impossible to test it. But exercise in studies does. It's associated with reduced risk of mortality and reduced risk of all these chronic diseases. And in clinical trials, it improves a lot of the blood markers and health markers. So it's for even if we're not talking about even maximum lifespan, then it will certainly increase your health span and your quality of life. So if you're 60 years old and you don't exercise, then you'll have slower walking speed. You're not able to lift things. You're not able to potentially run anymore or run fast. You're not able to jump. If you fall off the stairs or something, you're not able to grab a hold of something. So exercise counteracts all those things. And if you look at the young person, they're able to get up and go, move around, do cartwheels or tumble on the floor, whatever it is. All those things are indicative of good muscle strength, coordination, mobility, flexibility, and cardiorespiratory fitness. So exercise improves all those things. So if you want to stay youthful and younger and extend your health span, you need to be exercising in multiple ways so that you would actually have the physical function of someone who's younger.
So you do resistance training 3 times a week, and then you do HEAT, which is like high intensity interval training 1 time a week, and you do zone 2 cardio 2 times a week.
Yeah, so I do at least 3 times a week, or up to 3 times a week of resistance training, which is calisthenics or weightlifting, and the other times I do some form of cardio, zone 2 cardio or HIIT cardio.
Yeah. What do you recommend? You are also like coaching people. What do you recommend to your clients? For instance, a woman who is like 40. What do you say? How should she start doing her exercise routine?
Yeah, for women pre and post menopause, it's important to increase bone density. So after menopause, the drop in estrogen increases the risk of frailty quite a lot, a lower bone density from the drop in estrogen. So the only thing that counteracts that is resistance training. So you can't increase your bone density with diet or walking even. You need to overload the joints and the bones to trigger the growth of bone cells and bone density.
So when you are like older woman, you should start doing more muscle and less like cardio.
Well, you should definitely do cardio as well.
Cardio as well, but,
right,
but more muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for sure, especially if someone didn't do it in the past, then it's very likely that they don't have very high bone density. So it's, you can do like a DEXA scan to measure your bone density. For women before menopause, it would be probably a good idea to test it once to see the bone density with a DEXA scan and see, okay, I need to, they would need to start lifting anyway, but then they can see if there is a serious risk of osteopenia.
How about you when you're 30 now? So when you're 40 or 50, how will you change your exercise routine?
I'm probably going to keep doing the same routine for the next 20 years or something like that. I might change. So if I were to be 60 or 70, then I might need to shift more towards weightlifting because there's this decline in bone density and muscle mass with age. Before your 40s, you don't really need to worry about muscle loss unless you're super skinny or frail already. But otherwise, normal weight people don't need to worry that much about weightlifting before their 60s. But ideally, they should still do it to kind of build up this reserve, muscle reserve and bone density reserve before their 60s already.
You also do sauna quite a few times a week, and actually there is a lot of research about health benefits of sauna. And I think like in Finland, like many people have saunas in their homes, and we don't actually realize how healthy it is to go to sauna.
Yeah, most of the studies are done in Finland.
In Finland.
Yeah, and up to 4 times a week is associated with quite significant reduction in heart disease, Alzheimer's, hypertension, all-cause mortality, and dementia.
It's like 40% reduction of all-cause mortality if you do like 20 minutes 4 times a week.
Yeah, but that's even compared to
one time a week.
Once a week,
yeah.
and I think the reason is compared to once a week because they didn't find anyone or enough people who did it 0 times a week in Finland. So if you were to compare, an American or let's say someone who does 0 times a week, then it might be even greater, even higher.
Okay, so you should do at least like 20 minutes a time.
So the temperatures shown is that 20 minutes is better than 11 minutes. I don't know if you do more than that, if it's better even. I don't think so. Like probably 20 minutes is enough.
What is the good temperature for sauna?
I think 70 degrees is
Celsius.
Yeah,
70 degrees
is a good amount. At least that's what the studies used.
Okay.
There's one study at least I found that showed 100 degrees was associated with a small 2% increased risk of dementia over the course of 10 to 15 years, which isn't like a huge risk, but it might also mean that 100 degrees might not be a good thing.
Yeah.
Chronically, every once in a while it's probably fine, but if you do 100 degrees all the time, maybe it's not good for the brain.
Yeah, and what do you think about cold plunges?
Well, there's less research about cold plunges. Sauna is definitely healthier, or at least more evidence than cold plunges. But the studies that do or have been done on cold do show that it lowers inflammation, increases immunity, and might lower some blood markers as well, such as like ApoB, which is a cardiovascular disease risk factor. And I do like the cold. I take it, when there's an opportunity, but I don't, I guess, deliberately do it. I don't like. I may need to make sure I get this much per week of cold exposure. I do take the cold shower pretty much every morning, but not that frequently with the ice baths.
But you take a cold shower every morning. So you do it every day, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And supplements. Brian Johnson takes like 100 supplements a day or whatever, something like that. What do you think about that?
well, I mean, it's hard to know if it's working, right? If you're taking so many supplements, so it's hard
You don't know what's working and what's not.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to test and see if something is moving the needle in some way.
Well, you take some. How do you know what to take? Because like many doctors say that if you eat healthily, you don't need supplements.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element of truth to that. But some ingredients are hard to get only from food. And, let's say omega-3s, you can get 1.5 grams of omega-3s from something like 200 grams of salmon. But do you eat 200 grams of salmon every day? Probably not.
And
right?
There's a new clinical trial, big clinical trial that says that omega-3 oils may slow aging process as well.
Yeah, they use some of these epigenetic clocks to see the effects of omega-3s, and it did lower some of those ages. And omega-3s have, I wouldn't base the decision to take omega-3s on that study, but I would base the omega-3s on all these other hundreds of studies on omega-3s reducing the risk of heart disease and dementia. So, those are more valuable type of studies.
How about krill oil?
Well, krill oil has omega-3s.
Yeah.
And
is it good source of omega-3?
Yeah, it's a reliable source. Algae oil is also a good source of omega-3s.
Okay.
More plant-based. So you can take it as fish oil, krill oil, and algae oil. So you can get it doesn't matter where you get the omega-3s, as long as you get them.
Yeah.
But you're not eating 200 grams of salmon every night. So you probably need to, or it's better to supplement it. I think for most people, it's one of those supplements I think most people would benefit from. But there are also other ingredients that you can't get from 100% foods, like NMN, which is this NAD booster that supposedly supports energy production, and NAD levels decline with age, so you can fill the gap with some NAD supplementation. That's a theory. But
NMN or NR, which one is better?
I think they're both equal. Both probably work the same way.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can't get them from food.
No.
Right. So that's an example
so do you do NAD boosters? NAD is like this big hyped thing in biohacking world where they believe that NAD levels help with longevity. And biohackers take lots of NAD boosters.
Yeah, well, I do think that it probably has benefits and probably has health benefits for aging because of that. But I take niacinamide. So niacinamide supports NAD recycling, so it's a better alternative than NMN or NR for that reason. And it's also cheaper, so I like it better because of that reason.
Niacinamide, okay. And you take also creatine and magnesium, am I right?
Yeah, creatine is the most researched supplement of all time, pretty much.
But it makes you puffy. That's what I read from somewhere, so I didn't want to take it.
Right. It does have some water retention effects, but that's because it makes you retain water in the muscles, so your muscles look fuller, and that's one of the reasons it is the most researched sports performance supplement out there.
But it also has some. It helps with your cognition and with your brain.
Yeah, so it helps in states of cognitive deficits. So if you have sleep deprivation, it can help to counteract that. Or if you have dementia or neurodegeneration, it can help to alleviate the symptoms. So it's not going to give you cognitive superpowers, right? But if you have either low creatine status in the brain, such as if you eat low dietary creatine on a plant-based diet more often, or if you suffer from a cognitive deficit from sleep deprivation or a concussion. If you get a traumatic brain injury, then large doses of creatine probably has benefits. Even they find studies that depression can be improved with creatine. So depression causes this state of energy deficit in the brain, or it's usually, maybe it's hard to know, it's a bidirectional relationship probably, but creatine improves mental health symptoms as well.
And magnesium and D3, K2.
I don't take magnesium every night, but pretty frequently. That it's in my regular stack, pretty much. And I take it because it's hard to get from food. You need to eat something like 100 grams of pumpkin seeds or more than that to get it. So I don't eat them every night. And other foods are also quite low in magnesium. Let's say you probably need to eat like a kilogram of salmon to get your daily magnesium, and a kilogram of spinach or something like that. So it's not very easy to get all the magnesium that you need. So I take a supplement. I also take a glycine, which is an amino acid that supports collagen turnover and has glutathione boosting effects. It lowers blood sugar and has other benefits. So you naturally get it from these gelatinous meats.
But don't you take collagen as well?
I take collagen as well, yeah. I take 10 grams of collagen. But you get 3 grams of glycine from the 10 grams of collagen. But so I add an additional 10 grams of glycine on top of that. So this is my own opinion with the glycine. There's obviously studies reporting glycine's benefits, but the large dose of 10 grams, I take it from my own conclusions.
Okay. Yeah. Biohackers talk a lot about circadian rhythm. What is that, and how do you incorporate it in your daily life?
Yeah, the circadian rhythm is your body's day and night cycles. Our body has a circadian clock that is synchronized or connected to mostly the circadian cues coming from the environment. The biggest one is light, but there's also things like movement, food, and the Earth magnetic field that affects these things. And these circadian clocks, they try to detect the signals, try to interpret the signals, so the light goes through your eyes into the brain and tells the brain that, okay, it's daytime, depending on the wavelength of light that it is. So right now, these bright lights tells my brain that it's midday, probably. If these lights were to be like red or very dim amber, then the brain would detect the signal that it's sunset. And if it was completely black, then dark, then I would think that it's nighttime. Right, so these are cues, signal the brain a specific time of day, and based on those signals, these clocks tell the body what to do. So, okay, start to produce these hormones, do these processes, etc. So everything needs to work like clockwork for most efficient, let's say, metabolism and sustainability for the organism. So your body is very energy conservative in that sense. It tries to conserve energy. So it tries to do everything at the optimal time, and these cues help to do that. So there's different fluctuations in hormones. In the morning, you produce cortisol to wake you up and give you energy to start fat burning and wakefulness. In the evening, cortisol levels should be low, and then the body starts to produce melatonin to make you fall asleep and tired. In the modern world, we have a lot of interrupters to these rhythms. So if I were to sitting under these lights at 9 p.m., then it wouldn't help me produce melatonin. And that would make it harder to fall asleep and may have some other health consequences.
And you said in your Instagram that your biological age was 16. That was 12 years younger than your chronological age at that time. So do you think everybody can make their body younger with these simple things?
Yeah, I think it's possible for everyone to do, for sure. So one of the biological age clocks that I like to use is a pheno-age. So it's you can calculate it from 10 blood markers. So it doesn't use a specific test. You can calculate it from blood markers there's like online pheno-age calculators probably. So it uses glucose, creatinine, lymphocytes, white blood cells, red cell distribution with alkaline phosphatase, CRP, and mean red cell volume. So you can calculate it from those markers, and it's more reliable than these other epigenetic age clocks, in my opinion, because there's less fluctuations in these things and more actionable as well. You can see, okay, is my kidneys or is my liver suboptimal, so you can improve those markers. Whereas with
your liver is 9 years old.
yeah. Well, I mean, that was based on these epigenetic clocks.
Yeah.
So I don't know like how accurate it would be, but that was the result.
Yeah. Siim Land, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Ja kiitos myös katsojille. Me nähdään taas seuraavien kiinnostavien aiheiden parissa. Moikka!